When wedding vows are mentioned, we typically think of something like, I, Tasha, take Mr. Anonymous for my lawful husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. I will love and honor you all the days of my life. There is also a secret unspoken addendum for many couples that reads, unless you do something I do not like. And there are also limitations to my love for you. Don't get it twisted, don't get too comfortable, or I will leave. How many of us are truly prepared to stand 10 toes down and honor the vows we recite before man and God? How many of us are prepared to keep putting in work even after we say I do? How many of us are willing to be the tie that binds when our spouses have all but checked out of the marriage? Many of us claim to be so solid. So why then are marriages so frequently abandoned? Let us take a closer look at the vows. The answers to the questions I have posed can be found there. To have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse. You do not get to walk away from your spouse in marriage just because things have become uncomfortable. You stand firm and fight, even if you are fighting by yourself from time to time. Society has conditioned some of you to believe that filing for divorce is a viable option, and because of it, the sanctity of marriage has become watered down in the eyes of many. Some people are going into these unions with divorce as a contingency. They say to themselves, if it does not work or if I become unhappy, I can get a divorce. If you enter into marriage with this mindset, there is no reason to persevere when the tides turn. How many times do you hear people give the advice, follow your heart? In the New Living Translation, Jeremiah chapter 17 verses 9 through 10 says, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? When your best girlfriend or your homeboy tells you to follow your heart, that's terribly bad advice. Our hearts change. Our minds change. Our feelings change. Many are making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. This is why it is important to keep people in your circle who can speak life into your situation when you have lost your way. This is why it is important to have people who will speak truth to power in your corner. You do not need people around you who will amen you to death. You need people around you who will call out your pride, ego, and nonsense. Some of your so-called friends are sending you to divorce court so you can be lonely and miserable like they are. For richer or poorer. Finances can be a major point of contention in a marriage, particularly the lack thereof. You are required to remain committed to your spouse, whether or not the wheels fall off. You should be content whether you are in a $1 million mansion or sleeping with your spouse under a bridge. Misfortune can happen to anyone at any time. Is the love for your spouse unconditional? Or does it require a particular net worth and standard of living? Many of your grandparents and great-grandparents had large families and limited resources, but managed to lead wonderful lives regardless of their financial status. As a whole, we have more education and make more money than generations in the past, but have become weak in the area of commitment to the family unit. Many couples fight over bills, debt, and living above their means. None of those things have anything to do with love and should have no bearing on the status of your marriage. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses who are struggling themselves. Stop looking at other couples as couple goals. You have no idea what their battles are behind closed doors. Stop going into debt by spending money on large, lavish weddings to impress a bunch of people you do not like. Stop looking for the fairy tale ending. It does not exist. In sickness and in health, I personally assist individuals daily who have become physically handicapped due to illness or accidents. Because they are no longer physically capable of doing what they could before one fateful event, some of them have been abandoned by their spouses. When we envision marriage, we rarely give thought to the possibility that any number of tragic events may occur. Will you still love your spouse or future spouse if they were incapacitated? Would you still desire them and want to remain by their side? Would you be dedicated to taking care of them, catering to their every need for the rest of your life without the possibility of reciprocity? If you're unsure about that, imagine momentarily the idea of your spouse abandoning you in your time of need. How would that make you feel if your spouse changed their mind because you were no longer the physical specimen they married? Your commitment cannot wane because the bombshell or heartthrob no longer exists. Your devotion should always remain intact. Until death do us part. There are many reasons why a person may decide to walk away from their marriage. It could be due to finances, selfishness, infidelity, blah, 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 blah. The vows we take before God are not designed with an expiration date. Let me make myself crystal clear. If you are being abused and your life is in danger, this does not apply to you. I am not talking about horribly toxic marriages that you had no business in. If you did not seek God's guidance in your spouse selection, you were on your own from the beginning. You cannot expect God to show up after the fact and bless the mess you have created. Back to the discussion. If you are struggling to remain committed to your spouse, consider the possibility that your cord has become unraveled. What do I mean by this? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12 from the New Living Translation. You will endure trials and tribulations. The waves will not always gently caress the shoreline. There will be cloudy days, and you may at times feel as if the sun will shine no more. But you do not get to throw in the towel. The vows you took require that you continue to stay in the ring past the 12th round. The enemy will exploit any entry point he can find. Do not allow the sun to go down on your anger. You will need to pray together, communicate openly and honestly, forgive continuously, honor your spouse publicly and privately, speak life into your spouse, cater to your spouse, compromise for your spouse. Wives, there may be times when you may need to lead when he can't seem to find his way, but do so in a manner that does not expose his weakness. Understand when to fall back into alignment and into your proper position. Cover him when necessary, but he is the head. Never lose sight of that. Husbands, you may need to continue giving 95% when your wife is only capable of providing 5%. In the midst of these challenging times, your commitment must not waver. Love covers a multitude of sins. Rely on one another and the grace of God to endure. Your assignment is until death, not until you get fed up. You don't get to walk away. Thank you for listening.